Well, hello everyone. This is Scott Ridout, the president of Converge, and I am here with a great panel of our leaders across the country, across our movement. And I am so grateful that they could join me. The reason I've chosen a lot of these leaders is because they represent different size churches, different scenarios. Most of them are East Coast because, believe it or not, it's early in the morning when we're recording. And so the sacrificial lamb is Nate Hedinga, who lives on the West Coast. Thank you for getting up, Nate. We've got so many different people from so many different churches. Some you may know, Nate Hedinga is the executive minister of the Northwest District. Muller Jean-Pierre is pastor of Baraka Baptist in Brooklyn. Rod Hairston is the lead pastor at Messiah in Maryland. Brad Wilkerson is in Texas at Rock Creek Church. Mark Albrecht is at Northridge Church in Antioch, Illinois. Stephanie Williams O'Brien is a co-lead pastor at Mill City Church in the Minneapolis area. Sean Winters is also in that same area at Calvary Roseville. Dale Peterson and his posse are here from Eagle Brook in that area. Mike Schnapp is probably a new name to some of you. Mike is the executive pastor at Vox Church, very fast-growing church in Connecticut that's multi-site and doing a great job. And then Kyle Robinson is with us. He's the executive pastor at Wooddale Church. And so everyone, thank you so much for being with us. And I just want to have a short conversation about what's going on these days. And I'd like to begin with you, Nate, if you don't mind. Before I get to Nate, though, I want to mention a couple of things. Some of you will see this through social media. You'll see this through different things. But one of the reasons you're not receiving it through your district is because you have yet to give their district all your information. And so I'm just going to beg you, we're in the middle of a 2020 census. We're trying to get all the updated information so we can help you as best we can as churches. So you just need to go to converge.org/census and put your information in. And this kind of stuff will go directly to you. And then second, I want to mention this, that most of the districts are having some sort of town hall webinar in the next few days. Look for information from your districts. Again, if you haven't given them information, you're not going to get it. But give your information to the districts through the census. And these district guys are doing just a great job helping churches stay informed. And so, Nate, I want to begin with you. The first wave of the coronavirus happened in the Seattle area. We were all shocked when it hit you, but you guys have taken the first punch. And we're learning a lot from you. Nate was the one that sent out the very first Converge response on this. And so I just would like you to talk about what it was like to be the first ones and how your churches responded and what you appreciate about that and the challenges that you're facing.
Yeah, it hit us first and hard. And so we were kind of the guinea pigs on the reactions on both sides. So we had people, especially the larger church guys, were trying to figure out how do we fit under the 250, which was the first metric. And then others that were saying, hey, it doesn't matter, we've got the righteousness of God on our side. Then others saying it's a conspiracy. And so we had a lot of that kind of stuff going on. By the second week, it became pretty apparent that this is something all of us will have to deal with. And so there was some repentance from some leaders. I think overall, it's been encouraging to see churches helping each other. An awful lot of our churches had never done anything online and certainly didn't know how to do anything live. Some of the bigger churches stepped up and said, hey, we've got multiple staff that are on production, communication. They were offering studio space. They were offering to coach guys through. And so that's been really gratifying to see people rallying around. And I think the overall reminder that you've done, that I've done, is just reminding everybody Jesus is bigger. We've been through lots of stuff over the years, just not in our lifetime. And we're going to be all right through this. Lately, I've been telling guys, you need to be thinking 12 to 20 weeks. The possibility is that this is going to last longer. And so it's going to get lonely. We have to figure out how to do separate ministry together without being able to gather. And obviously, finances are big. We had a church, one of our daughter churches burned to the ground early yesterday. And normally there would be an outpouring of financial, instant financial help. And everybody's still going to do that, but now they're having to take a deep breath and figure out, okay, we're losing $10,000 a week, or we're losing $1,500 a week, whatever the metric is for them. So it's going to look like sacrifice in a different way.
Yeah. Well, let me go to thank you for the West Coast view. Let me go to the East Coast. And Muller Jean-Pierre, would you make sure your microphone's on and just tell us what's happening in Brooklyn right now? How's New York facing things? Then maybe after that, Mark, would you be willing to talk for just a few minutes about what challenges are this scenario bringing for you? So Muller, why don't you?
Sure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is a new road for us to travel down, and we're still figuring out how to navigate through these challenges. But one thing I realized that the fear is a little bit more heightened over here. A lot of questions are being asked. I've been on several chats with the Brooklyn Borough President's office, with the mayor's office, with the governor's office, and back and forth. And we've been getting a lot of information. Some of it is building on the other. And it's so hard to kind of like sift through all of that because we got 3 layers of information. Some of it, makes sense and it matches, but others you have to kind of like, okay, this is working only in our area. So we feel that because there's a lot of uncertainty and some of the things that Nate had mentioned as far as how we're going to make it, financially. So thank God we had we have live stream, we have an online platform to get the people to give. So we have to now, that becomes our main focus. Last Sunday we had service because we couldn't, our sanctuary seats 450. We had to go to 50% capacity. So we only allowed 250 in, and we went to an extra service. And though the first service was pretty much full, the second 2 services were not. Now we just have to send out information to the members saying that we're not going to have service at all. We're just going to do live streaming. So just the worship team, the musicians, and the technical people are coming in to, produce this worship service for the people.
Just out of curiosity for everybody, how many of you, just show of hands, how many of you actually went online this past weekend? How many of you did online services? Okay, so the large majority did online. Actually, almost everybody did online. Did anyone do live other than Muller? You said you did 2 services. And who did live?
Yeah, we did live. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just a couple of you. All right. Just thank you, yeah. Muller. Mm-hmm. Mark, you got a thought? Make sure to turn on your mic.
There we go. Yeah, I'm tracking with everybody here. I feel like that we are awaiting the wave to come. We did just have the first person in our little town who is officially diagnosed, so it's here, and we're just trying to get on the front end of protecting people. From a church standpoint, I think one of our critical issues right now is just communicating. We've tried to think about how are we communicating with our church, how are we communicating with our staff and leaders, and then how are we receiving communication. So that's been a little bit jumbled, and a lot of sort of anarchy and how that's all been done initially. So we're trying to kind of pull that all back together and do that. In terms of online, we've always filmed and done podcasting, but we hadn't done live streaming. And so we had a few issues with our internet capability this week. So we already know we have some new work to do in that regard. So it was a learning experience. I think our congregation was gracious with us, but if we don't get that stuff repaired, I think we're going to lose contact with a lot of people. So we recognize a real urgency around getting that right, especially if you, Nate said 12 to 20 weeks. We've been talking about 8, but boy, if it's 20, that'd be overwhelming. And we did take about a 50% hit in our collection this week. So we have to help people understand the need to stay connected to us. But we also know we've got a lot of people who are small business owners and restaurant owners and people who are getting hit right away financially. So it's not just necessarily reminding people to give, but we're having people in our church who are hurting for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask, so Mike Schnapp and Dale Peterson, you guys are multi-site churches in very different scenarios. But how has this affected the multi-site? And what have you guys done to try to figure this thing out? And you just walk through it, Dale and Mike, either one of you first. It's fine.
Yeah, so I'll go. We made the decision late last week. By probably, if you had asked us Thursday at 12, we would have said we were having church on Sunday. And then by Thursday at 4, we're not having church. And so we went to just a streamed model. we actually had pretty good tune in. We encouraged people, which we probably won't do anymore, to do church at home and invite people to, their homes to do groups under 10, which I know is probably, in hindsight, not something we're going to do this week. But we typically see about 3,000 or so on a Sunday, and we had 2,000 different streams. So pretty good engagement in terms of people tuning in, which was helpful. And so we're moving to like a Wednesday night virtual Bible study, using Facebook Live, probably like a 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m. check-in for like 9 a.m. for kids. I mean, everybody's at home with their laptops open. So 9 a.m. with, our kids leader doing something for kids, 12 p.m., something for parents, 3 p.m., like a brief teaching from one of our campus pastors in our various streams. So
you're trying to create a discipline, a rhythm for these churches that they can do family-wise. That's brilliant.
Yeah. We're trying to engage, as much as we can. Everyone's online right now. So we're going to try and, do that as best we can. And then, for us, just that pastoral care plan in the midst of this. So like we're shooting for, which is a little ambitious, but every member gets a call every week just to check in as much as we can, doing live FaceTime calls with people that, we're comfortable enough doing that, as much of that one-on-one, eye-to-eye talk as we can. So that's probably 60 seconds, but that's kind of where
Dale, what about you?
Well, we were the same way. We thought we were going to have a service live, and then, we ended up going online where we have 9 sites. 3 of the sites got shut down either by the city or school districts. So that pretty much made the call for us. But because we're multi-site, we were set, ready to go, even to the point where we offered our live stream to other churches. So we had other churches tuning in and watching us because they didn't have the capacity to do it. So that was kind of the EBA. It almost felt like our attendance was up. We had so many views going on and continue through the week. So, we're waiting to see how this is going to play out. We think Easter, we might have record attendance. We're really choosing to be very optimistic that we might be able to reach more people than we ever have before, because it's forcing us to think in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Ray jump on because we did something special for the kids too, because we wanted to engage the kids. So Ray, can you tell them what we did?
That'd be great.
Yeah, for kids, we just took the content that we've created, which is it's almost like a kids TV series that just runs where there's a presenter that kind of sets up the tension for it, and a video that runs. So those are on our YouTube channel and online. In addition to that, there was kind of a tool that we created of like, how do you as a parent do church at home? So here's some activities, here's some tips, here's how you engage with the curriculum that's been created that really just sets them up. Parents had an overwhelming response to that. We're creating some tools this week too, where it's almost a short video to kind of set it up. So there's a teacher doing it, so that parents are like, hey, here's what you would do during this time. And parents are really engaging with it. And we're lucky to have the resources.
Really good. Hey, Brad, I wanted to ask you, you just moved into your brand new building, and you've been there for a little bit, and now this hits. So how's this affecting you guys at Rock Creek?
Yeah, so real good timing. We've been in 14 Sundays, and momentum was off the charts, and we were headed for, a record Easter that we've ever had, and super excited about what was headed our way. And so we had church Sunday. We were on the back end of spring break, so we knew we would be down anyway. And so our local county was the 250 threshold. So we were able to do services Sunday, but now we're not going to be able to come together live. So we're having to switch gears and go to, online, which we did online as well Sunday. We're just trying to keep momentum with the online presence. We actually had over 400 watch online Sunday. So our attendance was still up to where it has been. But we know that won't last if we don't get creative with it and keep it creative and keep it engaging. So we met yesterday as a team, meeting again with our IT team at 1:00 and our children's ministry, and how, just as they were talking about, how do we engage all the generations that are at home, not just the adults, to keep the momentum going. So far, as of last Sunday, our offerings were good. but I know that, that we met live, so that helped. But we're concerned. It took everything we had to get in our building, and now we've got a mortgage every month that's overwhelming, that if we can't meet, where do we go from here? How do we keep paying employees? And so, yeah, we're trusting in God. We're on razor's edge, which I think that's where we're supposed to be in a lot of ways. We're not supposed to live in comfort. And also encouraging our people that we're going to do church like they did in Acts. We're going to have to go back. We're going to have to think outside of a big corporate gathering for a while. And how can we do church in homes? And when this 10 barrier is lifted at the end of the month, hopefully in 15 days, we can have groups more than 10. We're going to encourage Sunday morning services, in people's homes. But we're hoping and praying that somehow, some way we can have Easter services. We really are. That's our prayer, is that would be the first weekend we could be back as a congregation, would be Easter. And if not, as Mark said, we're going to postpone Easter, and the first day we're back in the building, that will be Easter Sunday for us.
Okay. I want to ask, while we're still on this topic, Rod, I'd love for you to speak into, is there any special impact toward ethnic groups, cultural groups, anything that what's your perspective on everything that's happening, and how do you lead a congregation through this kind of thing?
So obviously the impact is pandemic in nature, which means that everybody's affected very similarly. I think the nature of pandemic is that it levels the playing field in some ways. In other words, no one's exempt. And so we get to really work against a narrative that has been divisive in our nation, right? That, and this is longstanding, right? That some people are inferior, some are superior. So at this point, what we have seen is a great opportunity to care for people no matter who they are, right? So that's one. In ethnic communities, and particularly the African American community, a lot is dependent upon resources. Many of our churches are really week to week, month to month, financially, not unlike most churches. And so churches are feeling the brunt of that. In our case, we're not much different from that. So we went live online Sunday. We've been online for, a long time now, but we went live on Facebook and live on Instagram, and then we reposted our message, which I did from home. And we had amazing engagement. People were terribly engaged. It was, people liked the different format. And so I want to echo Dale's comments that this is a great opportunity to do something different, to engage people differently. And my communications team, I was going to go this Sunday and do something from our platform in the building. And they said, I don't think we should, Pastor. I think we should keep it different so that we can help people anticipate coming back to normal when that time comes around. The final thing I would say is this is a great time. Today on my schedule, I'm reaching out to our key donors and posting out to all of our ordained leaders and to our broader congregation to give and to give generously. And so I'm dusting off my old support raising skills from my days with Campus Crusade and reaching out to key donors to ask them to give above and beyond what they normally would. And y'all pray with me because I'm trusting God that the house of God will continue to stand. So.
That's great. Thank you, Rod. I want to ask maybe Sean and Kyle and Stephanie. We went from I had a text last week with a lot of churches that have 1,000-seat auditorium and just said, hey guys, it's coming. What are you planning to do? And that was Wednesday afternoon, and everyone said it's business as usual. And then Wednesday night, the president spoke, and by Thursday, 2 of them had gone online, and by Friday, 9 of the 10 had gone online. And it's a fast pace, and even the gathering size from 1,000 to 250 to 100 to 50 to 10, and now even in California, they have a shelter-in-place law. It's a martial law in the Bay Area where you can't go outside of your house except to get groceries or to go to the hospital. And so it's people are trying to fight this. So with all this fast-paced change, how does the church keep up? How do we make decisions? What decisions have you had to make? What's the pace of change that you've had to adjust to? And then what are the best practices tied to those things that you're trying to figure out? So if you guys would go ahead, and Stephanie, why don't you start us off, and the other guys could just take off after her. Okay, Kyle, why don't you go ahead and start with it? Start with us.
Yeah, I think pace of change is, I mean, we're running as quick as we can, Scott, to keep up with all this. For us, and I've sent I've sent more communication to our staff the last week than I probably have the last year, it seems. But it's just really been stressing with our staff the need to over communicate. And as was mentioned earlier, we too had the initial flurry of emails from all of our various ministries going out. And so we clamped that down here yesterday and just said, hey, we're gonna try to get really, really organized. We're gonna have one central point on our website where we're gonna have a church at home toolkit for people, just to consolidate all the resources, all the videos, link into everything that we have. So it's one web page that a person or a family could go to access kids videos, student videos, all sorts of resources, just to kind of help keep things together. And then obviously I've been living on the phone with our senior pastor and some of our board members, and just trying to really be in communication. Tyler's been awesome. He and I've touched base a couple times, just, hey, what are you guys doing? We're in the same area. So, I'm feeling actually oddly more connected than I've ever been with some of our leaders. And I told our senior pastor this on Sunday night. We were chatting about, what the future is going to look like. And I said, Dale, man, I think you've been preparing our church for this moment for years. They just didn't realize it. And all the work we've been doing about being disciples who make disciples, now is the time. And it's kind of the message like, hey, we're putting you in the game. And whether you feel ready or not, here you go. And God's been preparing you for this, and let's do it. Let's really go forward and be the church now. And that's going to be more of the messaging that we're going to be given to our congregation, to really encourage them to be the church in their local environments.
Wow. Stephanie, how you doing now? Can you
Is my microphone working?
Yes, you are.
All right, great. Technical difficulties take new meaning in this time. I've just been stressing with my community, similar to what was just said. The church isn't really called to stability, but called to agility. That's what we've been since we began. We forget that, though, I think, easily. And peace can come without having the stability that we often think about in the world, because of who God is, and maybe not the certainty we can have, but the assurance in our relationship with God. And so with us, we've been talking about, what does it mean to be agile, quickly switch things over, try to do as many things as we were planning on doing, but in new ways. And so that is not going to be easy. That's a lot of change. My biggest thing with my community has said, our mission as a church hasn't changed. So what are we going to do to continue to live out our mission? If our mission is to love our community in the name of Jesus, we might have never had a better time to live that mission out than we do right now, but we've never had a more challenging way to do that. And so wanting to attend to people's anxiety, but also equip them to continue to love their neighbors, even if loving their neighbors looks like waving through windows and dropping things off and being as safe and wise as possible. I've found people are really energized around, oh yeah, that's right, we have a mission. God's mission has a church, and so we've got to keep letting that church do what it's created to do, while at the same time being wise and coming alongside those who need comfort. But I found the anxiety level does go down when people feel like they have something to do.
Yeah. I just got to point out that when Stephanie said from stability to agility, all the preachers in the room wrote something down. I just want to point that out. So creativity is just forgetting where you got it from. But Stephanie, thank you for that. So Sean, what about you?
Yeah, we were surprised. So I finished my sermon at noon on Friday, and then I get the phone call saying we're actually thinking we won't have church. And so we recorded it on Saturday because we don't do live streaming. We posted it, and we had, great watching. I think we had almost 1,000 people watch in a church of 1,200. So that's really good. One of the things that we realized, or at least I've been thinking about, is our culture in Minnesota. We cocoon 6 months out of the year, so we're good on that. And we actually don't stand closer than 6 feet from each other, so we're good on that too. We're just that's a culture up here. It's a strange thing, but a couple things we talked about on Sunday. One is, if you're in a time of need, let us know. And if you have means, help us out. And we've worked on that. We had an uptick in online giving. You know, I in my sermon, by example, I said, I brought in my envelope. Our church is open. We need your finances. It's been a great response the first week, but 12 to 20 weeks, we'll see how that goes. Mm-hmm. Decision making. We've worked hard on that. We've communicated a lot with our congregation and our staff. Today, we're going to do a brown bag, bring your own lunch. Meet in the worship center. Don't sit close to anyone. But we've also offered it to all of our staff via Zoom as well as Facebook Live. And we're just going to talk. We're going to talk. We're going to share. We're also going to listen. I think that we need to hear from our people. How do we do this? You're the experts. Talk to us. And then the final thing that I think I want to share is that, you know, I believe leaders lead by example. And I've been really kind of thinking about Psalm 46, where it says, be still and know that I'm God. I'm going to challenge our pastors and our staff to take kind of this space to really be still. It's forced on us, but let's see it as an advantage. So how do we spend time with God? And then how do we connect with our neighbors in a new and a fresh way?
Yeah, it's really good. In fact, let me move into this. Anybody who wants to answer, you know, what have been some of the best practices? I know some of you already mentioned, and by the way, you've all done a great job, not just with language, but with here's some special things we're doing. But and we talked a lot about the worship service itself, but let's talk about giving. Let's talk about discipleship, youth and children, outreach. You know, what does that look like? And I just want to tell you a quick story. I was up in Connecticut near Mike recently this past weekend. And I was talking to a guy at the church on Saturday morning. They didn't do services. They went services online that weekend. I was videotaping Saturday. He told me the night before he was at a grocery store and he was walking the store. Of course, there's, you know, panic. Everyone's trying to get everything. I don't understand the whole toilet paper thing because that's not a part of this scenario, but everyone's after it. But he was walking the store and this woman rolled down the window of her car and said, excuse me, sir, can you come here for a second? And he walked over. It was a 95-year-old woman and her 95-year-old husband. And she rolled the window part way down and said, listen, sir, we've been sitting here for an hour looking for a kind face. And said, I have a grocery list and $100 bill. Would you please go in that store and please buy me my groceries? Because I'm afraid to go in there. And it's one of those moments where you just realize this is so full of fear. And so what does outreach look like? What does discipleship look like? How do we give? And you guys have given some good ideas there, but what are some other ideas you have? And how can we meet the needs of people like this woman in the car who's just afraid to be even close to anybody?
Yeah, one of the things that we did, just a small thing yesterday, but we have a senior couple who they don't have internet, they don't do computers, they're in their mid to late 80s. And we just had one of our team members go over and set them up with a DVD player so that we can burn DVDs of the worship services for them so that every week they can play something from their church. And just starting to reach out to seniors around us, with simple phone calls. Do you need anything? Can we drop off anything? So that's helpful. We had a session planned for our children's minister. Janice was going to do a session called how to lead your kids to Christ. And so we did that online. The engagement was extraordinary. And so people from all over the country were chiming in about how helpful it is. And so I think, again, it's a great opportunity for equipping people through this effort, but also reaching people who might be obviously siloed, but just reaching out to them.
It's really good. Thanks, Ron. Somebody else. Go ahead, Ray.
One of the things that we've kind of relied on is a lot of our younger staff that are just smarter, more technologically advanced. They've been trying to be more innovative for years. So our online church pastor started and came up with an idea and did a collective group brainstorm with some of our other staff last week. So we're doing online devotionals every morning live at 7, and then they play throughout the day. And so far, thousands of people have already sat through that. It just sets them at ease, shows them. And today was, how do you pray? Simple. straightforward, just to help people. Obviously, we've reached a lot of people for Christ, but how do you help them in this situation? Our student pastors are doing something online. They're just going to sit on a couch with a laptop and do Wednesday nights differently, but then every day at 1 o'clock, because students are at home, they're going to meet live on Instagram and just talk about what's going on. Same thing with some of our kids stuff. Our kids pastors and teams are going to be engaging in that way. Small groups, it's very easy, and Zoom just lifted their like free 40-minute session so that you can do it longer, which is a blessing from Zoom. What a great tool. So all of our groups, instead, don't give up meeting together. We're just going to meet online instead. In fact, we're not using the word cancel with anything. We're moving it online.
Yes.
And again, this could be the greatest opportunity for the church to reach people nobody else is reaching and to help them grow in their faith. We're also asking all of our campus pastors that have partners in their communities, what are the needs that are out there? This is week 1 for us. We don't know that. So I'd love to hear from some of you that have been in the weeds for this. Nate, probably you. Like, what have been the needs in the community that we can prepare for that we don't know about yet?
Yeah, Nate, would you mind trying to address that?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of creativity. We're hearing that even in this conversation. We're seeing it in the churches here in the Northwest, especially some of our more, great word, agile churches, the younger ones that already had missional communities. We had one church that developed a community care plan. They've pressed that out through their small groups. This new limitation of 10 or less, and now the possibility of being completely shut down, like we're saying in San Francisco. I expect that'll be our reality here in the next couple of days. We don't know, but I think it's wise to prepare for it. But the creativity overall is helpful in every area of outreach and communication. But I think we're also having to communicate hope, joy, peace, the fact that we're still on mission. All of those things, I think, help us get past loneliness, fear, and the sense that we're all by ourselves, and we're not. So I think creativity is it's where genius is going to be found for, I think, not only this time, but into the future.
You guys have said a couple of things really insightful. I mean, you've said many things, but one of them is, is the next generation, the younger generation. They're a technologically savvy generation, and we need to harness the beast. They know what they're doing. Our generation may have content, but theirs has the delivery system, and so we need to learn from them and how to do those things. And then Nate just touched on this idea of leadership in crisis. One of the challenges of the church is we've always tried to manage around crisis, but the job of leadership is to lead through crisis. And so what does this tell us about leadership? What are we learning? Crisis is not a bad thing. It's always a barometer of just how well we're leading. So what are we learning about the church? What are you learning about you guys? And how are we leveraging this moment? And what are we learning about leadership in this crisis? And maybe a few of you would share a favorite verse that's been something that's really moved you through this in your leadership as you talk. So who wants to go?
Well, for us, I would say that the biggest thing I've learned is that even though I'm the leader through this and my voice has to be louder than the voice of the crowd, I don't have to speak alone. I have a team of people who are smart and they are talented, and they will shoulder and carry this burden with me. So I'm not a leader who's a lone ranger. I'm a leader of a team. And so when we all get in a room, magic happens. The Spirit of the Lord moves. And I think what Sean was talking about with his meeting coming today, I'm 50 years old, and so I have to listen. I have to listen to the younger generation in this time, because it boggles my mind on how we can keep it going, because I don't understand it all. I know I have the content. I know I have the motivation. I know what to say and how to lead. I just need somebody to help me deliver it. And that's where I got to press into the team. So we're reading, I've got my church reading Philippians 4, 6, and 7 every morning, praying that, and then going and living their lives as best they can. But even more than that, obviously Joshua, being courageous through a time of having to lead where you just don't know what's on the other side of that valley. But I heard someone say this last week, he's with us through the valley of the shadow of death. He's also with us through the valley of a virus. So we can do this. He's given us the ability to do this in him. And so, but I think pressing into those that are around us.
Thank you. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as we shifted to live streaming, our younger people were telling us the experience of the worship service is only a small part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to create the avenue for the comments and the connection with each other all throughout that hour. And I was really amazed at how much activity there was, and people even talking to each other kind of as the service was going on. And you sense that there was a community being built, more than just said, hey, we all watched the screen together. But that conversation was much more impactful than I understood it to be.
Really good. Somebody else? Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I know there's so much information out there, but Christianity Today had one story about the church in Singapore, and they had 7 ideas. They've been in this for 5 weeks, and I shared that with our congregation on Sunday. And the last point, I mean, there's up your prayer game, up your tech game. The last point was watch for gospel moments, and so that's been kind of something that we began to repeat here into week 1. But just to look for gospel moments. And again, as you're preaching the word of God, and it applies. And I think that's what people really resonated on Sunday, or whenever they watched the online, was that thank you for reminding us of the gospel, and that we can look for gospel moments in our lives.
Really, really good. Anybody else? Yeah, Dale.
I would say when it comes to leadership, we've had 8 people on our leadership team, including our brand new senior pastor. He's in his 3rd week on the job, so good for him. But there is this thing of taking advantage of opportunity, but also managing the pace. Because finances, you have to really watch what's coming in. 65% of our people give electronically. And we're trying to push that up to 70 now. It's kind of our new goal during this virus time. But that gives us some more stability. On the other hand, we're getting ready to buy property for our one of our campuses. We're getting ready to buy another building. LED walls are expensive. And we had plans to buy one. And now we're going like, well, wait, we should maybe back off on that a little bit so that we don't put ourselves in a financially tough spot. So it's just this, we're meeting constantly as a leadership team and managing the pace at which we move forward. But we're choosing to be very optimistic during this time.
I'd like to ask maybe Mike and Kyle, you guys are fairly futuristic executive pastor types. And so what do you think the long-term impact on the church might be? There's a difference between doing church and being the church. And I think we get those things confused. And so what are you seeing? What are you thinking? Just looking ahead, what kind of things what do you think is going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now? What's going to be the impact, the residual from this scenario?
Yeah, I think it might have been Kyle who mentioned it already, who said, using this as a chance to sort of activate the church for the mission and purpose of the church, and we talk a lot about disciple making churches, in which you're teaching your church to go out and make disciples, and the multiplication effect of that. And so I think using this opportunity it's a little tricky right now in loving your neighbors from a distance, but how do you get that mindset in them so that, you come out at the other side of this with people really looking at their own reality a little different, but also looking at their neighbors with, fresh compassion and empathy as they're wrestling with their own mortality in a way that, everyday life doesn't necessarily make them do that. And so giving them language for how to love those in their lives, their coworkers, their family members, their neighbors that don't know Jesus, helping them get ready to have those conversations coming out of this is really important, I think.
Thanks. Kyle, you got a thought?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about what's the comeback look like in terms of once some of these restrictions are lifted. A week ago, I think going into this with the mindset of this is a snow day, which we have every now and then in Minnesota. And it was just kind of like hunker down, we'll get through this and then everybody be back and here we go for Easter. And I'm really, as I've just been watching more and more media and really more and more of the people in our community responding and how they're starting to use the language and how they're describing this and talking about it. This feels more like a major societal shift. And I think even when some of the bans are released or the guidelines get lifted, I think we're going to see a slow adoption back to large gatherings. I don't know that it's going to happen all at once. And so this concept of how the church becomes distributed is going to become increasingly important for us. And in that, I think content and community are king in terms of how you can merge those two things. And we have to ask some really hard questions about how we do what we do, and how do we help people meet, know, and follow Jesus in a way that maybe doesn't utilize in the same capacity some of the mediums that we've used before. So, as Dale said, I think this is a beautiful opportunity for the church to take a ton of ground. We as leaders just have to be, I think, really open to maybe check some of our egos at the door and say, are we okay having a bigger impact if it means less faces looking back at us from stage? And so that's, those are some of the questions I think we really need to wrestle with.
Anybody else got a thought? Yeah, Mullery.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think we also have to be careful that we don't burn ourselves out in this new arena. Sometimes we can try to do too much, trying to figure out too many things. I'm grateful we have in this conference call, and also use the resources around us, whether it's community resources, the political resources we have, the government resources. Our people want to know that we have answers to a lot of these questions they're having. So as many people we can get around us that have the answers, and even point the people to those people so we don't have to do all the work ourselves. I think that's key, because this is a new turf that we're in, and we don't want to burn ourselves out trying to figure everything out.
One of the old models of church, whether it was a large church, small church, it didn't matter. One of the old models is this concept that leadership envisions, leadership plans, and leadership controls. Envision, plan, control. But we're in a new season where it's not envision, plan, and control, but it's empower, mobilize, and support. The church is not a building you sit in, it's a movement you choose to be a part of. And so what does it mean to be the church and not just to envision, plan, control, do the church? We've got to empower, mobilize, and support. So what does that look like? Sean? Just a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
I also think we need to think deeply and theologically about community. One of the things that we can do is do church virtually, but is that church? And is that what God envisioned? And I think that for us, there can be teaching in this. There's a sense that there's an already not yet to the whole of our Christian life. And in this season of being at distance, I think as we understand more deeply what community means, we're going to have to be creative in the in-between time. But I think we don't let go of that. And that we're not afraid to say, hey, this isn't ideal. We are made for community. We're made for being in relationship with one another. And that longing in our hearts is not just for Christians, it's your neighbors as well. So leveraging the truth of the gospel for evangelism, but also for what people need in the chance to get back and be together. It's part of what makes us believers.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. You know what? We got one last question, and we'll have to end this conversation. But, we talk about long-term impact, and some of you actually mentioned this in passing. But, we have a saying in Converge is that we are better together. How have you seen that? How have you experienced that? What are you doing to leverage that better togetherness? And, people always ask me, why would anyone join Converge? I think moments like this tell us why people would be a part of our movement. What are you experiencing in the Better Together, whether it's with Converge or other churches? How are you experiencing that in this present scenario? Yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, we have a 135-year-old Converge church down the street from our 12-year-old Converge church. And as soon as they found out that our 12-year-old Converge church that meets in a school has our license suspended, they said 30 days, which is Easter Monday, but it could be obviously 20 weeks. I got a text message unsolicited. You can have whatever space we've got if you don't get back in that school. Nobody even asked. I never said, hey, I'm worried. He just heard the news and texted me right away. And I think that that's the spirit, right? It's like grandma saying, it's the same conversation that Scott, you had with your son. Grandma said, hey, if you need something, we're right down the street. And that's super meaningful.
Awesome. Somebody else. Yeah, Mullery, and then Brad, and then, Mullery, turn on your microphone.
There we go.
There you go.
We still have our lead team that met last month, and we've invited several other pastors that are non-Converge pastors. And so when the crisis hit, and we were able to share resources with them, to share with them how we are better together. And three of the 5 churches said we're ready to join Converge because we've never had this kind of camaraderie among other pastors.
Mm-hmm. Good. Brad.
Revolution Church, Randy Moore's church, and our church here at Rock Creek, we are 2 of the Vision Texas churches that have the newer facilities, the newer technology, newer equipment. So allowing our churches that meet in the schools that have been shut down to come into our venue and record their services with our equipment has been some way that we've been better together. They don't necessarily have the equipment, so come in, use our stuff, or if you need a building to meet in, if you need that venue. And then there's a couple churches in Frisco, which is about 10 minutes to the south of me, that are mega churches that have a very we are better together mentality. They're not Converge, but just pressing into those leaders, and those leaders pressing into me as a friend and helping to guide us and helping us show us some clues they're doing and some things learning from them. So I'm seeing that we are better together across groups, across denominational barriers. It's cool to see how the church is coming together.
Well, everyone, I want to thank you for the time. I'm going to have Rod Hairston close us out in prayer for the churches in just a minute. But I want to mention again, we are better together. There are resources like relationships, supportive relationships, and expertise, and encouragement, ideas, coaching that come when you're living life in something, in a group of people, something bigger than yourself. And we just want to encourage everyone. Listen, there's only one church. Doesn't matter if it's Presbyterian, Assemblies of God, Nazarene, Free Church, Converge. There's one church. We're on the same team. We got to learn to help each other. We got to be there for each other. And Jesus prayed in John 17, pray that you guys would be one so that the world would know. And so we're just praying that the church will step up to this moment, and we'll figure out discipleship, and we'll figure out multiplying disciples, leaders, and congregations with or without facilities, and leverage this new technology that God's given us. And Pastor Rod, would you mind closing us out in this time?
Absolutely. Let's pray together. Father, we bless you and honor you. We celebrate you. We give you praise and glory. We magnify you because you're God. You're worthy of our praise and our adoration. Thank you for being sovereign in this very challenging time in the world. Thank you for the reminder this is not your first rodeo. God, you have overseen your people through pandemic, through pestilence, through disease, and yet your kingdom keeps growing, keeps moving forward. And we thank you for that. Thank you that we're on the side of God as church leaders. I pray you'll fortify each of us, Lord, with strength, with creativity, Lord, with great faith as we seek to lead. And I pray, God, for all of Converge, that there would be great strength together, that we would turn to one another. Your word reminds us that we are experiencing the beginning of birth pains, Lord, as we head to the return of Jesus, probably more quickly than any of us could imagine. Lord, find us faithful. We pray, God, that you would give us great boldness to declare the good news that Jesus lives, he forgives, that he saves. And I pray, God, that you would take gospel movement to a whole new level.
Yes, sir.
We pray for greater awareness than ever before, Lord, in this day and time about the love and person of Jesus Christ. And again, thank you for letting us be a part of it. It's in your name that we pray, Lord. Amen.
Everyone, thank you, Pastor Rod. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be together. You guys have done a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see how God uses this moment for the church. I want to remind everyone who's watching your districts will probably have some gatherings the next few days that you want to be part of. And I also want to mention, if you don't get information from us, it's because you haven't filled out your information. So converge.org/census. We're trying to get every church to give us information for moments like this. May God bless you guys, and
thanks, Scott.
have a good day.